This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Good morning. It's Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump calls off tariffs on Mexico and Canada for now, but could the EU be next? I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
USAID, which is in charge of dispensing billions of dollars in foreign aid, is on the cusp of being shut down. I'm Julie Walker.
Some Democrats getting louder over their concerns about DOGE.
DOGE is not a real government agency.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, investors were spooked by tariff threats and then pauses before they even started for Mexico and Canada. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The latest on the investigation into the D.C. plane crash and a sense of normalcy returning to Los Angeles after devastating wildfires. All ahead on America in the Morning. China has announced it is implementing counter tariffs against the U.S., 10% on crude oil, 15% on coal and natural gas products. With just hours to go before 25% tariffs on all goods from Mexico and Canada were set to go into effect, the White House announced deals had been struck with those two countries that have temporarily halted the tariffs. Here's John Stolnis with more from Washington.
After speaking with his counterparts in Mexico and Canada, President Trump announced his administration would hold off on the tariffs for 1 month, saying he received concessions from both countries on boosting border enforcement. Prior to his deal with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Trump suggested our northern neighbors simply become a part of the United States.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection.
He went on to say tariffs against Canadian goods wouldn't really hurt American consumers.
We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber. We don't need them for anything. We don't need them for energy. We have more energy than they do. We don't need them for energy.
Trudeau announced the creation of a fentanyl czar and a task force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. However, Canadian ambassador to the U.S., Bob Ray, told Fox News most of what was promised by Trudeau already exists and was announced months ago.
Many of those expenditures were already announced by the Prime Minister many weeks ago. We're not the 51st state. We're a sovereign, independent country. Our leader deserves to be treated with respect, and we deserve to be treated with respect, and that's the way we want to proceed.
The White House announced Mexico agreed to send 10,000 National Guard members to its northern border to stop the flow of migrants into the U.S.
Permanently, like forever, 10,000 soldiers at their side of the border and stop fentanyl and illegal aliens from coming into our country. They have a big incentive to do.
Meanwhile, the European Union appears to be the next ally on the Trump administration's tariffs list, saying the EU has abused the United States for years on trade. EU President Ursula von der Leyen says they will do what they must should the U.S. impose tariffs on them.
We also recognize potential challenges in the relationship with the United States, and we are ready for that. When targeted, unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly.
A 10% tariff against Chinese goods did go into effect last night. John Stolnis, Washington.
Democrats irate after Secretary of State Marco Rubio announces he's now the acting administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Aid. And Elon Musk said President Donald Trump has agreed U.S. aid should be shut down. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
We're spending taxpayer money here. These are not donor dollars. These are taxpayer dollars, and we owe the American people the assurances that every dollar we are spending abroad is being spent on something that furthers our national interest.
It's not only a gift to our adversaries, but trying to shut down the Agency for International Development by executive order is plain illegal.
There is a reason that USAID is an arm of American foreign policy, and it is because we understand that a stable world means a stable America. And in the last 10 days, Donald Trump has done more to destabilize things across the planet than perhaps any other president in recent memory.
The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, which is in charge of dispensing billions of dollars in foreign aid, is on the cusp of being shut down, according to President Trump's advisor, Elon Musk.
He does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink it as well as anybody else, if not better. Where we think there's a conflict or there's a problem, we won't let him go near it. But he has some very good ideas.
Asked about it on his way back to the White House, Trump weighed in.
USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Musk has been wrestling for control of USAID and took to X Spaces to discuss it.
To be clear, in shutting down, which we're in the process of doing, shutting down USAID.
The Trump administration placed 2 top USAID security chiefs on leave after they refused to turn over classified material to Musk's DOGE government inspection teams, which eventually got control. Democrats say Trump lacks the constitutional authority to eliminate USAID, but it's not clear what would stop Trump from trying. I'm Julie Walker.
DOGE takes charge of federal payments when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues with a look at the national forecast this Tuesday. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
After several days of rain and mountain snow across the western U.S., the atmospheric river causing this event will make one final push into California today and tonight. Snow levels will remain high, but where it does snow, there could be as much as 2 feet by Wednesday morning. Rain will still be the biggest concern for Central California as the focus of the system shifts slowly to the south. This will mean additional localized flooding and the risk for some mudslides. The system will eventually reach into Southern California tonight, attempting to put a slight dent into the very dry weather that the region has been experiencing. Moisture from this system will also continue into the northern Rockies into Montana, where we'll see some snowfall. This will produce several inches, especially in the higher elevations. Meanwhile, in the northeast U.S., there will be a cold front shifting southward, and from that, there will be a few snow showers along it from New York into northern Pennsylvania, especially around the Great Lakes. Some snow showers will also develop in portions of New England. The rest of the east is going to be largely dry with some amount of sunshine. Temperatures will mostly be 5 to 15 degrees above the historical average, with 40s and 50s from southern Pennsylvania into southeast New York, and 70s and 80s in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. In the central part of the nation, there'll be some clouds building across the southern plains from eastern Texas into Kansas and Missouri and as far east as Mississippi, with some drizzle also developing. And then farther to the north, there'll be a push of Arctic air continuing southward into the central plains with highs below zero in parts of Montana and North Dakota. That's the weather across America. It'll be a mild day in New Orleans, Louisiana, despite plenty of clouds with a high of 75. Great Falls, Montana, however, will be quite cold with some snow and a high of 5 below zero. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A federal judge has extended a temporary ban against President Trump's order that paused trillions of dollars in federal spending. In her ruling, U.S. District Judge Loren Ali Khan cited what she described as the catastrophic impact on millions of Americans who receive resources from the government, including food and medical assistance, disaster relief, and grants for preschools and small businesses. She added that allowing the executive branch to suspend Congress' power of the purse would give presidents unbounded power over appropriations. The freeze is separately being challenged by 22 mostly Democratic-led states, claiming the policy could have a devastating effect on their budgets. Dems in Washington are sounding the alarm over the U.S. Treasury Department, reportedly giving the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, access to federal payments. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling on the Treasury Secretary to revoke DOGE's access. Otherwise, he says the country could risk unprecedented danger for the economy.
DOGE is not a real government agency. It has no authority to make spending decisions. It has no authority to shut programs down or ignore federal law.
DOGE, run by billionaire Elon Musk, was given access to the Treasury Department's payment system, which is responsible for $6 trillion in federal payments. Democrats worry that Musk's employees can access Treasury data like Social Security, Medicare, and other benefits. President Trump, though, is not worried about a potential conflict with Musk and his companies.
And he would know not to do it. So we haven't had that yet. But if there was a conflict, we would let him work in that.
The president spoke to reporters in the Oval Office.
If there was something that didn't have my okay, I'd let you know about it really fast.
Musk responding to concerns by reiterating that DOGE was founded to limit government spending. I'm Clayton Neville.
Tariffs rattle investors, markets fall when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. A fresh look at markets this morning with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street was whipsawed by the Trump trade war and the threat of tariffs yesterday. Stocks plunged, but then recovered a bit. Mexico first got a pause on its tariff fate, and then by the end of the day yesterday, so did Canada. The Dow was down 120 points. The NASDAQ dropped 230. The pause on tariffs for a month happened before the tariffs even began. In Mexico, troops will be at the border to stop fentanyl in exchange for the U.S. trying to stop the flow of weapons into Mexico. The threat of tariffs spooked investors.
If I was an American business person, I'd be thinking, is this my life for the next 4 years? Tariffs, even if these tariffs get negotiated, what's to prevent the president 6 months from now, a year from now, saying, guess what? I don't like that negotiation. We're doing it all over again.
The American Enterprise Institute's James Pethokoukis on CNBC.
And as we've learned this morning, Jessica, China is implementing counter tariffs against the U.S. on multiple products, 15% on coal and natural gas, 10% on crude oil. So with Mexico and Canada on pause,
it's all eyes on China.
I think there is some concern about potential broader disruption. The question going forward is, as we think about tariffs, is will we be seeing further tariff action that could really impact demand? So hence we watch very carefully the situation with China.
U.S. crude hovering around $72 a barrel this morning, but prices at the pump are lower in the last week. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular is now $3.09. That's down 3 cents a gallon from last week. Gold, it hit a record high yesterday. It's seen as a hedge against volatility. Coffee futures also hit a fresh record high. New England Patriots owner and billionaire Robert Kraft stopped by CNBC to promote a very different type of ad you're going to see in the Super Bowl this Sunday with Tom Brady and Snoop Dogg.
I hate you because you look different.
I hate you because I don't understand you.
I hate you because people I know hate you.
I hate you because I think you hate me.
Because I need someone to blame.
Because you talk different.
Because you act different.
Because you're just different. Man, I hate that things are so bad that we have to do a commercial about it.
Me too.
Here's Kraft on CNBC.
We have two people here who most people wouldn't think they have a lot in common, yet they're 100% together on this issue. When I called each of them to do it, they agreed right away because they feel like I do that there's something going on in the country that is just not good for America.
The full story is at CNBC.com. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Google parent Alphabet.
Should be interesting. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Investigation update on the deadly air crash in Washington, D.C. when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Thanks for listening. You're with America in the Morning. Salvage crews have recovered a large portion of the passenger jet involved in the deadly midair collision in Washington, D.C. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports the search for those killed continues.
The work continues in the Potomac River near Washington, D.C. to find the victims of the collision between an American Airlines jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter.
This is a complex investigation.
There's a lot of pieces here. Our team is working very hard to gather this data, make sure we understand why this happened.
67 people were on board the aircrafts. There's believed to be no survivors. This is D.C. Fire Chief John Donnelly.
So far, 55 victims have been positively identified from this aircraft, or from this accident.
Colonel Francis Perro with the Army Corps of Engineers says there is a precise operation going on.
And should any remains be found during our process, an automatic work stoppage happens, and we will definitely begin the proper coordination with the appropriate authorities.
Perro says the aircrafts will be loaded onto flatbed trucks and taken for further investigation. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Nearly a month after Los Angeles wildfires devastate areas around the nation's second largest city, some normalcy is returning for a few residents. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
Weeks after the deadly Palisades fire ripped through hillside Los Angeles neighborhoods, the iconic Pacific Coast Highway has reopened. Traffic along the scenic shoreline route began moving again with just one lane in each direction and limited speed from Santa Monica northwest to the Ventura County line. Cleanup and utility repairs continue, and proof of residence or entry passes are still required to enter the Palisades burn zone. Rain is in the forecast later in the week, and the highway will be monitored for hazards, including mud and debris. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, a report on cartels targeting U.S. agents at the southern border.
Israel's prime minister meets with President Trump. I'm Clayton Neville.
The WHO wants America back, and New York fights a Louisiana extradition order over abortion.
New Jersey's governor daring ICE to come get the illegal immigrant living in his house. I'm Pamela Furr.
El Salvador to take not just criminal migrants from the U.S., and baseball says strike three to an umpire.
With great power comes great encryption protocols. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have their first day in front of a judge. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy has a look at the national forecast on America in the Morning.
In the northeastern U.S., there will be a cold front shifting southward, and from that, there'll be a few snow showers along it from New York into northern Pennsylvania, especially around the Great Lakes, and there'll also be some snow showers in portions of New England. The rest of the eastern states are going to be largely dry today with some amount of sunshine. Temperatures will be mostly 5 to 15 degrees above the historical average, with 40s and 50s from southern Pennsylvania into southeast New York, and 70s and 80s in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. The central part of the nation, there will be some clouds building across the southern plains from the eastern Texas area into Kansas and Missouri and as far east as Mississippi. There will also be some drizzle developing. These areas will be largely mild, with some areas in South Texas reaching into the mid-80s. But farther to the north, an Arctic push will continue southward into the central plains with high temperatures below zero in parts of Montana and North Dakota. The southern moisture will encounter some of that colder air tonight through northeast Kansas into northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and central Illinois for it to freeze and produce icy conditions. This will be a precursor to a larger storm developing Wednesday into Thursday for the central and northern plains into the northeast. The atmospheric river will make one final push into California today and tonight. Snow levels will remain fairly high, but some areas that do receive snow could see as much as 2 feet by Wednesday morning. Rain will still be the biggest concern from central California as the focus of the system continues to southward, but it will still mean some localized flooding and the risk for mudslides. This system will eventually reach southern California tonight, trying to put a dent into the very dry conditions in the region. Moisture from this system will also continue into the northern Rockies into Montana, where some snow will fall. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. There are serious concerns at the southern border for the safety of those who are defending it. Fox News is reporting that Mexican cartel leaders have authorized the deployment of drones equipped with explosives to be used against U.S. Border Patrol agents and U.S. military personnel currently working along the border with Mexico. News Nation is reporting that a memo was sent to U.S. border agents highlighting social media posts that called for people to assassinate ICE agents and to use explosive drones. Agents are reminded to be cognizant of their surroundings and should be wearing their ballistic armor and utilizing their long firearms at all times. All of this comes as Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed an agreement with the Trump administration to give immigration power to the Texas National Guard, allowing soldiers to arrest and help deport undocumented migrants. Texas has had their state National Guard troops along the U.S.-Mexico border for almost 4 years as part of their Operation Lone Star. America in the Morning continues. In his first official meeting with a foreign head of state in the White House, Israel's prime minister will meet with President Trump today. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to meet directly with President Trump just weeks after the president took office for his second term.
The fact that this would be President Trump's first meeting with a foreign leader since his inauguration is telling. I think it's a testimony to the strength of the Israeli-American alliance. It's also a testimony to the strength of our personal friendship. That friendship and that cooperation has already yielded important results for Israel in the Middle East, including the historic Abraham Accords that President Trump led and which brought 4 historic peace treaties between Israel and its Arab neighbors.
Netanyahu said his conversation with Trump will focus on important issues facing the Middle East.
A victory over Hamas, achieving the release of all our hostages, and dealing with the Iranian terror axis and all its components, an axis that threatens the peace of Israel, the Middle East, and the entire world.
President Trump told reporters it's critical that the war end as quick as possible and stressed urgency, saying he's not sure if the current ceasefire deal will hold up.
I have no assurances that it'll hold. I mean, I've seen people brutalized. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. No, I have no guarantees that the peace is going to hold.
The prime minister said that Israeli military operations in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran have already redrawn the map in the Middle East, but he thinks that working closely with President Trump, the countries can redraw it even further.
I believe that we can strengthen security, broaden the circle of peace, and achieve a remarkable era of peace through strength.
Netanyahu will be in D.C. through the end of the week. He's expected to meet with a number of U.S. officials while he's there. I'm Clayton Neville.
The United States was by far the biggest donor to the World Health Organization, putting in an estimated $988 million, contributing more than 10% of the WHO's annual budget last year. President Trump has ordered the U.S. out of the organization. Meantime, their chief is hoping leaders could help sway Washington to reconsider its withdrawal. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The World Health Organization chief is asking countries to lean on Washington to reverse President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw from the UN Health Agency.
We would appreciate it if you continue to push and reach out to them to reconsider, because all the asks, no good reason to leave.
WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said in a closed-door meeting with diplomats this week that the U.S. will be hurt by a lack of access to critical information about global disease outbreaks. Here he is addressing those diplomats in sound of the meeting obtained by the AP.
But the other thing that we shouldn't forget is, apart from resource mobilization, efficiency gains, which we have started even before this happened, still investing in bringing the U.S. back will be very important. And on that, I think all of you can play a role.
WHO Emergencies Chief Dr. Michael Ryan said the impact of the U.S. withdrawal was terrible.
And I just remind you all that the United States government is not leaving a building in Geneva. It's not leaving a secretariat in Geneva. It's leaving a community of nations. It's essentially breaking up with you.
A confidential budget document showed WHO's Health Emergencies Program has a heavy reliance on American cash, and that emergency operations in the Middle East, Ukraine, and Sudan would be affected the most. I'm Haya Panjwani.
New York is changing its approach when it comes to prescriptions for abortion. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, the Empire State is facing an extradition order from Louisiana for the arrest of a local doctor who prescribed an abortion pill sent through the mail.
After an arrest warrant was issued for a New York doctor indicted in Louisiana for prescribing abortion pills to someone there, Governor Kathy Hochul signs legislation to keep doctors' names off those pill bottles.
The doctor's name was on the prescription bottle. That's what they were looking for, to identify this individual. After today, that will no longer happen.
Hochul also vowing to fight that extradition order for Dr. Margaret Carpenter, who prescribed the abortion pills for that Louisiana minor at the request of her mother.
That there is no way in hell that I'm going to be signing an extradition agreement with the state of Louisiana to turn over a New York State doctor.
Louisiana officials found out about the pills after the minor went to the hospital with complications. The girl's mother also charged.
There's no way in hell they'll ever respond to a request to extradite this individual and face criminal charges. Never, under any circumstances, will I sign an extradition agreement that sends our doctor into harm's way to be prosecuted as a criminal for simply following her oath.
I'm Julie Walker.
New Jersey governor challenges the feds over immigration. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. I'm John Trout. The Senate confirmed oil industry executive Chris Wright to be the next energy secretary. The Colorado-based CEO of Liberty Energy was confirmed by a vote of 59-38, with all present Republicans and 7 Democrats throwing their support behind his nomination. Some Senate Democrats who opposed him have previously cited President Trump's efforts to roll back aspects of the Inflation Reduction Act. At his hearing, Wright changed his view on climate, telling senators that climate change is a global challenge that needs to be solved. Over to New Jersey, where Governor Phil Murphy admits to housing someone in his home whose legal status may be in question, and he's daring anyone with the Trump administration to do anything about it. Pamela Furr is following that story.
Murphy on the Blue Wave New Jersey podcast over the weekend.
There's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
His comments come as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement have been conducting raids in New Jersey, including Newark, as part of President Trump's promise to target illegal immigration. In fact, Trump border czar Tom Homan has repeatedly said that knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal immigrant from ICE is a violation of the law. Republican State Assemblyman Eric Peterson spoke to a local media outlet saying the governor thinks he's above the law, suggesting ICE check on the illegal migrant safety, implying the governor could be using, quote, cheap labor to clean his mansion. I'm Pamela Furr.
Overnight, a new deal announced between the U.S. and El Salvador, which agreed to house violent U.S. criminals and receive deportees of any nationality. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announces the agreement with El Salvador's president, which calls for the Central American nation to, quote, accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who's a criminal from any nationality, end quote. El Salvador's president posted the deal on social media, saying they'll take in only convicted criminals, including U.S. citizens, in exchange for a fee. President Trump is demanding that Ukraine offer its mineral supply of rare earths in exchange for much-needed American military aid. As correspondent Karen Shamas reports, Ukrainian troops are losing ground in a key city in the east to Russian forces, but there are continuing drone strikes against Kremlin oil refineries with strategic results.
We had a very busy weekend. We're dealing with Israel. We're dealing with Ukraine and Russia. We have meetings and talks scheduled with various parties, including Ukraine and Russia.
And I think those discussions are actually going pretty well.
Ukrainian troops have lost ground with fewer fighters and exposed supply lines at a key city in eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian forces in the strategic city of Pokrovsk have been dealt a blow by Russian drone attacks on supply routes and a shortage of infantry troops. The crucial supply hub lies at the junction of highways leading to key cities in the Donetsk region. Ukrainian commanders say they don't have enough reserves to keep defense lines going, and new recruits are unprepared and sometimes abandon positions. To add to that, heavy fog in recent days has limited Ukrainians from effectively using surveillance drones, allowing Russian troops to control dominant heights and take more territory. I'm Karen Shamas.
Tech researchers claim their new encryption method is unbreakable, created by using AI and lasers to encrypt data inside of holograms. Nothing short of amazing. Here's our Chuck Palm with the story.
With better encryption comes better encryption cracking software. Chief researcher from the University of Crete, Stelios Tsourtzakis, and the Institute of Electronic Structure may have developed the holy grail of crypto technology, an uncrackable code. By combining AI with a holographic encryption, scientists have developed an ultra-secure data protection system. According to an article on SciTech Daily, the method scrambles laser beams into chaotic patterns, making decryption impossible without a trained neural network. It is said this innovation could revolutionize cryptography. Tsourtzakis said our new system achieves an exceptional level of encryption by utilizing neural networks to generate the decryption key, which can only be created by the owner of the encryption system. This new method uses the neural network to retrieve elaborately scrambled information stored as a hologram. The information is stored by shining a laser through a small vial of liquid that refracts the beams into random patterns, thereby creating an uncrackable code. I'm Chuck Palm.
With a check of Tuesday sports, here's Robert Workman.
NBA Monday, the Knicks erased a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter to upend the Rockets 124-118. Jalen Brunson had 42 points. Nuggets rocked the Pelicans 125-113, 36 for Michael Porter Jr., a triple-double for Nikola Jokic, just enough to offset Trey Murphy III's career-best 41-point night. Trae Young scored 17 of his 34 points in the fourth quarter, including the go-ahead fadeaway Jay with 1 second left as the Hawks wing the Pistons 132-130. Thunder rolled over the Bucks 125-96, 34 for the NBA's leading scorer, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 2 scorer in the league is Giannis Antetokounmpo, but he was out for Milwaukee, along with Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez, leaving the Bucks with a lineup of Lucius Allen, Bob Dandridge, John McLaughlin, and Oscar Robertson. Knicks edged the Timberwolves 33 for DeMar DeRozan in Sacramento's first game since trading De'Aaron Fox. Wizards whacked the Hornets, Washington, with back-to-back wins for the first time since before Halloween. Grizzlies, Blazers, Pacers, and Warriors win. Auburn and Duke remain 1-2 in the latest college basketball polls. The Tigers a unanimous pick in the writers' survey, and they got 29 of 31 first-place nods among the coaches. One game in the NHL, the Senators down the Predators 5-2. Super Bowl 59 comes up Sunday in New Orleans, Kansas City against Philadelphia. Coach Andy Reid, are the Chiefs thinking about that Super Bowl three-peat?
Yeah, you don't have time to think about all that. You're focused in on the job at hand here, and that's playing against a great Eagles team.
That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Robert, stick around for this one. Major League Baseball says you're out. Why the umpire's being let go when America in the Morning returns after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. It was 14 years ago that Philadelphia schoolteacher Ellen Greenberg was found dead on the floor of her apartment with 20 stab wounds, 10 of those in the back of her neck, about a dozen bruises in various stages of healing. Authorities ruled her death as suicide after her fiancé told police that she stabbed herself. Now, after years of investigations and lawsuits by her parents, the pathologist who performed the 27-year-old's autopsy has changed his mind. Authorities say new information has reopened the case, and the city of Philadelphia has settled the lawsuits for an undisclosed sum. Greensburg's parents always insisted their daughter was murdered. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred has upheld a recommendation to fire an umpire for sharing sports betting accounts. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports.
Umpire Pat Hoburg was fired by Major League Baseball on Monday for sharing his legal sports gambling accounts with a friend who bet on baseball games and for intentionally deleting electronic messages pertinent to the league's investigation. MLB opened the investigation last February when it was brought to its attention by the sportsbook. Hoburg did not umpire last season. MLB said the investigation did not uncover evidence Hoburg personally bet on baseball or manipulated games. Hoburg can apply for reinstatement no earlier than spring training 2026. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
The ongoing feud and legal case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni now moves inside a courtroom. Kevin Carr has the latest.
The ongoing feud between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni is heating up both inside and outside of the courtroom, and that's exactly what worries the judge. The first hearing in the case, which combines Lively's sexual harassment claim with Baldoni's $400 million defamation case, was held on Monday in New York. After the hearing, Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, spoke to the press outside of the courtroom.
Our clients are devastated and want to move the case along as quickly as possible, and we just couldn't be more pleased with how the case was handled today.
Friedman's optimism stems from a big win in the court that day. Judge Louis Lyman refused to grant a gag order against Baldoni and his lawyer. This weekend, they launched the website, thelawsuitinfo.com. Currently, the site features only two things: Baldoni's amended complaint and the timeline of events from hiring Baldoni to direct the film to now. It includes text messages, legal filings, and other correspondence. Lively says that the site will be used for retaliation. This weekend, Friedman told Today that there was no ill will intended.
Justin Baldoni, from the get-go, said, I don't want to do anything negative toward her. I don't want to hurt her.
While the judge allowed the website to continue, he did warn both sides against litigating this case in the press. He also threatened to move up the trial date from the March 2026 start if either party did not comply. I'm Kevin Carr.
That's our show for today, Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.